Welcome to Unraveled Mind. My name is Antonio, I'm a certified professional coach, and I'm here with you today to talk to you about my quarter-life crisis experience. Stay tuned and let's play! This will be a two-part series on the quarter-life crisis. On this first one, I will be mostly focusing on my experience, having gone through this crisis a couple of years ago, and what it was like at the time, what I've learned at the time and since. And in the second video, it will be more the general signs that characterize a quarter-life crisis, what one could be looking for to know whether this is something that they are going through, or maybe even signs to look for in case you might be experiencing this in your future, and to be able to then recognize it. Because I think when we don't know what's going on, that's half the problem there, because we don't have a clear grasp on what's going on and we feel lost, we feel overwhelmed. So just by helping you diagnose what might be going on with you, that's already a huge help. But then I will also want in the second video to tell you a little bit about what you can do, maybe some things you can try for yourself to help you along in this sometimes challenging period in one's life. Before we start with my experience, just really quickly, because what is a quarter-life crisis? And many of you might not be familiar with the term. I think it's gaining popularity these days, but I don't believe it's as well understood, it's well explored, it's well in the public domain consciousness of what a quarter-life crisis is. We all by now know what the middle life crisis is. We've heard about it, we've seen it in movies, we've heard it in popular media, and it's been widely researched by psychologists and by science. And we all know those stereotypes of the parent who has a family but suddenly wakes up one day unsure of where he's going in life and wants to quit his job, move to a different country, buy a Ferrari, do something else. And this is something that happens in the more or less in the middle of one's lives, and let's assume that in the majority of the developed world we'll expect to live to the 80s. So this is a middle life crisis, is characteristic of this period between the early 40s to mid 40s, 50s. So the quarter life crisis would be a similar thing, but as the name implies, a little bit earlier. And it's something that's characteristic of the early 20s, mid 20s, even sometimes late 20s. And why I think it's important to talk about this, it's because I've, as I mentioned, and as I will talk about in this video, I've gone through such experience as a quarter life crisis. And it was a little bit daunting and overwhelming. And as I said, most of the problem was I really didn't know what to make of it. I thought there was something wrong with me at the time because I had all these doubts and all these uncertainties and I didn't know what to do. Now I can see it's part of the maturing process and the process of gaining and building your independence and your identity and rapport with yourself. And now having the hindsight, and after also during the process when I started researching, and at first I thought I had coined this term, the quarter life crisis. I was super happy when I thought about this for myself, but then I started researching, and now similar people have gone through similar experiences, and it's been a term that, while still not widespread, it has already existed, and it's been used by other people and even by psychologists since a couple of years now. But without further ado, let's just get into my goal and intention for this video today, which is to share my experience and hopefully with that help you, if you are going through this experience yourself, to realize that this is not something that only you are struggling with. There's a lot of people, and I believe that it's really important for people to talk about this, because by being more shared and more people sharing their experiences, it becomes more widespread within our society and culture that these things are real, these things exist, and when someone is going through it, they already know a little bit of what's going on, and they don't feel so desperate and lost, and they can even seek help if they feel they need it, or they can have some more tools and resources to handle it by themselves. That's my goal and intention with this video. So in order for us to understand how I got myself into this quarter-life crisis and to understand my experience a little bit better, I would just to really quickly give you some context about what was going on in my life. And so really quickly, in 2017, I came to Germany. I came alone. I didn't know that many people here because I got a job in Darmstadt in the space industry working as a software engineer. And it was my first time getting a real job. I had earned some money at university with a research scholarship, but it was never something that I intended to do long term, so I always saw it as more a short-term thing. And this was the first time that I got a job working at a company that I foresaw that I would stay there at least for a while. And it was as a software engineer. It was exactly what I was looking for at the time. And while I had lived abroad for a short period in Japan after university, this was also the first time that I was truly moving out of my parents' house. So I studied in Coimbra, which is my hometown, and I stayed during that period at my parents because it makes more financial sense if you're studying in your hometown to save some money by living with your parents. And since now I was moving abroad, this was also the first time where I was living alone by myself and truly gaining my independence. And of course, this was a period of great growth for me from 2017 until now, but specifically those first few years, there was a lot of growth because I was discovering myself. Since it was my first time being independent, that was when I was truly able to explore how I wanted to do things, set up or first challenge the rules that I was given through society and through my family, and maybe find ways of how I wanted to be doing things. I could also explore more freely of I want to do that, I don't want to do this. And of course this was a period of tremendous growth because there was a lot of things that I wanted to improve about myself. And I started of course learning German because I didn't know German at the time, so it was a huge challenge, but also gets you a lot of satisfaction seeing how fast you can progress when you're truly committed to a new language, and I got a lot of satisfaction from there. I was also learning a lot in my job because, as I said, and I guess it's true to any sort of work that one gets at the beginning, there's a lot to learn. You have to really grow a lot to be able to fill that position. Even though I was qualified and I knew programming, there's a certain way of how the company does things that you have to learn. You have to learn the people, and you have to learn to interact with your colleagues. And of course, since it was my first real job, once again, quote unquote, I also had to develop my professional identity. Who am I as a professional? How do I want to appear in my professional life? So I had to establish all of that and figure all of that for myself. So as I said, it was a period of tremendous growth. Started going to the gym, making changes in my health as well, and all this creates this environment where you're seeing progress and everything is going well. So it's very exciting, and it was one of the best moments in my life where I was really seeing myself grow, and I was feeling like, yeah, is life. I had a little bit this sense that I had life figured out in a sense, because I was doing the things that I wanted. I was going where I wanted to go, and at the time things were all fitting into place rather nicely. Fast forwarding to the end of 2018, now almost 2 years have now passed, and interestingly enough, that was also something I had set for myself. When I initially came to Germany, I was a little bit afraid of, since I was coming alone and I didn't know anyone, I thought I had a little bit the fear of not being able to fit in, not being able to adapt to Germany, and maybe being homesick and just wanting to go back to Portugal. And so I set for myself the target that minimum I would stay in this job and I would stay in Germany for minimum 2 years, and then I would think about what I want to do from there. And yeah, maybe it was just that target, and since we were approaching it, it's not that things were wrong, and I think I adapted quite well to Germany. I was feeling like I had fit in. Of course, my German was now also much better. It's still not fluent, but I was no longer feeling like take me out of here, I cannot even communicate with people. Now at least I could communicate with people. So while those fears that triggered this promise that I need to stay for 2 years were a little bit not materialized, the promise was still in my mind. So at the end, as I was approaching these 2 years, I was starting to just question naturally. So yeah, these 2 years have passed. How are things? How were things? What do I want to do? And even though things were going well, I had just finished the project that I was working on, which was Bepi Colombo at the time. We had just in October 2018 we had launched ISA, and I was part of the team that helped the big team that helped that happen. We launched the Bepi Colombo satellite that is going to Mercury. It's still on the way. And I was then being moved to a different project, so it was also the perfect time to really start thinking about how are things and what to do, because there was also this not only shift of these 2 years, it was also the end of the year, but I was also finished with the project that I was working on, and I was now being moved to a different project. So there was this season of change where things are ending and the new thing is a new chapter is beginning. So that's more or less what was going on at the time. And as I said, this was all a very interesting period in my life. But one thing that I want to emphasize, and that I always felt, even though I was excited about my job and I was satisfied, there was always this lingering, and I think this is more common, I guess, in the millennial generation. There was always this lingering feeling of, I do like what I'm doing, but do I want to stay here and work for 40 years? That always looked a little bit daunting to me, this idea that now, okay, I finished university, now I have to work for 40 years, and then I'm retired, and then that's when you get some free time again. And that's, I guess, was a little bit it. I was feeling like there was a lot of things that I wanted to do. I wanted to travel. I was now also getting really into personal development, so I was also reading a lot. I was doing online courses, and I just felt like I didn't have enough time to do everything that I wanted. And of course, one of the reasons why is, for better or for worse, you do have today, nowadays, we do dedicate a lot of our waking time to work. It's still 8 hours a day. And it was not a huge thing. These thoughts was already in the background of my mind as I was going to the end of 2018 and starting this process of questioning what do I want to do. So it's important to also know this. And I know that most people, when they start in the workforce, this is a common thing that they think about. Do I now have to stay and do this for 40 years? And that was definitely in my mind. And there's also a little bit of this question of, is this what life is going to now be about? I wake up, I eat, I go to work, I come back home, I eat, I go to sleep, and I just repeat that until the end of the week. On the weekend, I recover a little bit for on Monday to start everything again. And then when I'm really tired, I take some holidays to recover to be able to go back to work. And of course, this is not exactly how I always felt, but for sure the thoughts of this dynamic were a little bit in my mind. And on the end of 2018, I started asking these questions. So what do first, there was 3 main questions that I asked. First is, why am I here? And not in the metaphysical existential question of why do humans live and why do I exist. That didn't come for a while. It was just, why am I here doing this job in Germany right now? And I started asking this question. And that also revealed that, I never had really thought about what I wanted to do when I was a kid. I was never really sure when I was growing up, and when I was studying, I was always just, I will figure it out in the future. So I was always just going more or less with the flow, and I decided to go to electrical engineering because someone told me it would be cool, and it had robots. At the time I was a little bit into robotics before I got into university, so electronic engineering sounded cool, it has robots, I'm gonna be the next Iron Man. And in the end, I didn't like the electronic component of it so much, so I decided maybe to focus a little bit on software. Hence, I decided to become a software engineer, and I got this job because at the time I was looking for C++ software engineer. That's exactly what I put on LinkedIn, not on LinkedIn, on Indeed, on this big job search platform, and I found this job. I applied for it, and that's how I got here. So I got here a little bit by chance. That was a little bit of what I felt at the time. I don't really know why I'm here. It just happened. And so it's not necessarily bad. As I said, I was feeling comfortable. I was well paid. I had a satisfying job. But I then started to ask myself, so is this where I want to be? Do I want to continue here? And that's the thing. At the time, the answer was not no, because it's not that I didn't want to stay there. It was just I was not sure if I wanted to stay there, because I was not sure of what I wanted. And that's an interesting thing, is because in the space industry where I was working, you really do see a lot of passionate people that this is what they wanted to do since a long time. This is what they wanted to do since they were kids. And as I said, I found my job very satisfying, but I didn't have that twinkle in my eyes as I was talking about this. And that just made me start questioning, maybe, just maybe, there's something out there. There's something that will make me feel the same way as I see my colleagues feeling about this profession and this work that they are doing. Maybe there's something out there that maybe will help me feel that way towards it. And that became the little sparkle, the little question of, so, but I don't know what it is, so what do I do now? And that was the start of my quote-unquote middle life crisis. I started asking these questions, and the truth is we don't have answers to it. I started asking, so what do I want? Is this what I want? Is where my life is going where I want to go? And I think those are the key characteristic questions of happens in middle life crisis. Sometimes they are triggered because we are in a bad situation and we're really not satisfied and we are not happy with how our life is going. And that's a very common way where people get into this quarter life crisis, is because they start questioning everything around them because they don't like what they see. And there's the more mild way, it's what's happened to me, where things were going well, I was satisfied, but I just started asking these questions of what do I want? What do I want out of life? And I just realized I have no answer. And that gives you that feeling of uncertainty, because up until now, you were always more or less going through a path, either by your own choosing or because society tells you have to go to school, you have to, when you finish 1 year, you go to the next, then you go to the university. So you were never really questioning it, but you always felt certain that you were on the right path because you were first going along with what the adults and the people that you put trust, be it your parents, be it who else, that you are on the right path because they say so. But right now, you no longer have that comfort of having your parents or even society to tell you what is the right path. Because truly, nowadays, and that's another problem / opportunity here, is that we see with the internet, we start to see a lot of opportunities. We start to see that we could be doing something completely different. I could be doing X, I could be doing Y, I could be doing Z, and I really don't know which one I want to be doing. And so you become uncertain. I'm not sure this is where I want to be, and I'm not sure I know where I want to be. And that's basically how it started for me. And in the beginning of 2019, I did go and do a 10-day silent meditation retreat. And that also helped me put things into perspective, because this is probably something that not many people have done, but when you go on a silent meditation retreat, you just decouple yourself from your life, from your routines, and from the life that you've built for yourself, and you just experience something completely different. And what I realized in that meditation retreat is that there is no right way of doing things. And what I mean by that is, I was sitting for 10 days not doing anything, just meditating, just focusing on my breath, just focusing on my own body, and I was happy, I was content. I felt like that was a life worth living. That was enough to make me feel happy. And that just puts things into perspective. Then why am I doing all these things? Of course, they can also make me feel happy, but I don't have to do them to feel happy. There's other ways. And that's when I started really to think that maybe what I need is really to do something here, to find what do I truly want. And fortunately, at the time, I was, as I said, I had a good job, so I had built some financial security, and at the time, I more or less saw that there's two ways that I can go. I can continue where things are going and just kind of ignore these questions and let them go, and I could see myself really clearly that in a couple of years it will just come back again. And then I'm just postponing whatever is it that I need to do. And I'm not sure what it is, but I can just postpone it for later, or I can try to address that now. And at the time I thought maybe is the right time, because right now I'm still single, I don't have a family, I don't have a house. So if there's a time to do some soul searching and searching what do I need to do, I want out of life, that was the right time. So that's basically what I did. And in the end, I just quit my job and I started the process of trying to figure out what do I want out of life. And that's basically when then I decided to shift into coaching and becoming a professional coach, which is now the path that I'm on. With my story, I don't want to imply that if you are going through similar experiences as me, you need to quit your job and do 10-day silent meditation retreat. That's not really what I want to transmit with this story. What I want to transmit is really that it's quite natural for us to, especially in these early years when we are gaining independence, when we are building, when we are in this process of very constant growth, because there's a lot of new things that we have to adapt to. When that starts to stabilize, it's very normal for us to take some time to ask to ourselves, so what's going well, what's not going well, and to start asking ourselves, so what's important to me, what do I want, what do I truly want? And not having an answer to that can be unsettling. And there's always multiple ways to address it. You can either ignore it, you can try to do something about it. But my point with this is, it's not a bad thing to not know what we want. It's just the trigger for us to go and search for it. And if we search for what we truly want, then there's this satisfaction from, even if we don't have it yet, just knowing that I want this, and maybe I can do little things to go in that direction. That gives us purpose. That gives us this future that we look forward to. And in the end, that's a little bit of what is important in life. Because as kids, we always have this compelling future ahead of us of becoming adults, of being independent, of being treated like adults. So when we are kids, it's normal to feel excited about the future. And maybe something that is lacking when people start going into this process of the quarter life crisis. And of course, I'm not touching too many of how does it really look like. I wanted to leave that for the second video, but there's some components of anxiety, there's some components of depression even. If ever I was depressed in my life, was a little bit in this period. And of course, I didn't go into a deep long-term depression, fortunately, but there's this feeling of a little bit of hopelessness. And in the end, what's hopelessness? Is not having hope of a better future, not seeing a way out. And I think that's the element that's missing when we get ourselves into this quarter-life crisis. Is we figure out that we don't know what we want. We don't have a hope for the future. We don't have excitement towards our future. And when we don't have excitement towards our future, all the little things that, because life is not always easy. Even if you're doing things that excite you, there's always difficulties and stresses in your day-to-day life. So in order for you to be able to cope with them and overcome them and be excited to wake up the next day and tackle them, you have to have a vision for your future that compels you to want to keep moving forward. Because if you get to a point where the future doesn't excite you, the present, of course, has both good and bad, but the bad is going to start to seem, why am I going through this? Why do I have to wake up and go to work, even though it's okay? But why do I have to do it if all that awaits me is 40 years of work until maybe when I'm too old I will get retired, and maybe then I can do the things that I want, which is common. One is traveling, maybe learning something, maybe dedicating my time to whatever hobby that is. And that's really, I think, the core message. And that's probably what I want to leave it here. I don't want to make this video too long. I just wanted to share my story because I think it's important. I think it's important for people to hear about other people that have experienced this. And I really encourage, if any of you is either going through something similar to what I've been describing, this quarter-life crisis, maybe if you've gone through such an experience, I really encourage you to share it. Share it in the comments down below. Do it through whatever means. Maybe post it on your social media for your friends to see, because that's another thing. We sometimes project this perfect image of ourselves to social media, and I'm sure we see our friends getting married in the Caribbean or by the beach side, and friends who seem to be doing great in their job and they're getting promoted and are going up the corporate ladder. And of course these things are good, and it's good to celebrate the successes of our friends, but we don't see sometimes the challenges behind it. And I think talking about the challenges, it's as important as talking about the successes, because then it shows to everyone that you are not alone in having challenges. Because no matter how successful, how happy someone looks, there's always challenges in their life. And it doesn't mean that these challenges have to be on the foreground and have to be the main focus. But it's important to acknowledge that everyone goes through has challenges in their lives. No one's life is perfect, and by seeing the imperfection in others, we accept the imperfection in ourselves. So with this I wanted to really just share my story, so you get a little bit of perspective that even if things are relatively well, it's okay to get yourself in a quarter-life crisis, because it's not only for people that it's common to happen, as I said, in people that really are not satisfied with how their life is going and they really are not happy with their path. Mine was more like, I'm going down this path, but I'm not really sure if it's the best one for me. And just this triggered this quarter-life crisis for me, even though things were relatively well. And even a final point of this on the social media, it's really this idea that probably my friends, not the closest ones, because the closest friends, I was also talking about this challenge with them, and it was really important because I also saw them that they were also having similar challenges. Maybe not exactly at the same time, some of you a little bit earlier, some a little bit later, but they could give me the perspective that I'm not alone in this. They were having similar challenges, and that's something that's important. But I just wanted to say that maybe the friends that were not so close, maybe that they were only exposed to me through my social media, I was not putting all these doubts in there as I was having them. And maybe they even saw me as someone who is successful, who now is having a nice job in the space industry, is having a nice job in Germany, is well paid, and he has all these nice things going for him, so they probably even thought that maybe he has life figured out and I'm the one that isn't sure and doesn't know where his life is going. And to be honest, maybe I should, and if I could go back, I would probably be more upfront in sharing these challenges that I was feeling at the time. But I know this is also not easy to do as you are going through these challenges, because you are feeling insecure, and when you are feeling insecure, you don't naturally want to share so much, or at least not to everyone. You want to share with people that are close and that will support you, and of course that is always a good place to start. But just finish it here. I don't want to go too much longer. I hope this video is not too long, because next week I really want to touch on this topic again and focus more on the part where what are the true characteristics of a quarter life crisis, so you can identify it for yourself and what can you do about it. So look forward to it, and also I will also link down in my comments. I was talking a little bit about my experience, but I also posted on my social media a post that also covers my experience through this process, and it maybe touches a little bit different. So if that's something that you're not too bored and you want to also have a read, it's written on Facebook. So if you want to have a read, I will link it down below, and you can also have a read at that. So thank you so much for watching and for staying until the end. Once again, your support helps me put out more content, and if you think it's helpful, give it a like, share it with your friends. And finally, if this is something that you're going through and you feel like you need more support, always feel free to reach out to me. I'm one of the reasons why I wanted to become a coach, and I decided to come in this direction in my life, is to help people who are going through similar things to what I was going through at the time. So I really like and helping people who are experiencing this process of the quarter life crisis, because I've experienced, and I feel like I can connect easier with these people just because we have this common experience to create a mutual understanding of what's going on, and I can really understand these people, and hopefully I can also help you.